Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got some early attendees here. Welcome to the event. Great to see you all. Appreciate you jumping in at 5 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Now, hopefully for the early people jumping in, you should be able to see a link in the Zoom chat for a Slido where you can actually jump in and answer a question that we've got to kick you off with. So the question is, why did you choose to or currently want to become a sales leader? So for anyone who's in right now, please check out that link in the chat and let us know what made you decide to either want to become a sales leader or what's kicked off your sales career. If you're not quite a sales leader yet, either feel free to just tell us a bit about why you're in the career that you're in right now. We can actually warm things up a little bit. Why don't we start with the panelists themselves? So Ilana, why don't you tell us what was your inspiration for wanting to become a sales leader?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alex, and lovely to meet and speak with you all. I think for me, it happened quite organically, being a direct sales contributor for most of my career. I gradually started to enjoy things that would say go beyond my job description as an AE. And I just felt that I love to help people, and this feeling of helping other salespeople develop in their own careers. So it actually happened quite organically. I remember about a year before, I was talking to my manager and I was like, oh, no, not quite ready to be a manager yet. And then it just happened. So I think it was something that just happened within, and I progressed with that.
Sounds like it was meant to be. It was destiny, fate. Hirsch, what about you? Just as we're warming up and letting people in slowly, be good to hear about how you broke into sales leadership.
Sure, yeah. Hey, Alex. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. I think we spoke at length about how I went into sales, which was its own story. But with sales leadership, for me, it was really about. So I love making impact, and I've had great leaders in different types of jobs, but my most successful years as an AE, when I really think about why I was successful, I would definitely put it down to, one or two leaders that really changed, I guess, my life, not just professionally, but both personally as well. And for me, the thought of doing that to others was way more exciting than, closing deals, for example. So, you can make a great impact as an AE. You can, earn great revenue for yourself, bring a lot of revenue for your company, bring value to customers and prospects, which is great. But if you can help an AE half their time they spend at work so they can spend more time with their kids, or earn double their money so they can buy their first home, that for me is one of the most exciting things that you can do. So I wanted to give back what I've had the experience of having from great leaders myself.
Impact. I love it. Just as we're getting more and more people in, please check out the link on the Zoom chat where you should be able to see a link to Slido. We've just got a quick icebreaker question, which is, why did you choose to or currently want to become a sales leader? As mentioned, if you're not actually necessarily in sales or in leadership, just tell us a bit about why you actually kicked off your career, and we will get the event started in the next minute or so. I've had a couple of people contribute already. Someone anonymous says, I have a knack for finding best practice and enjoy the daily grind. I enjoy bringing out the best in others. I love that answer. Can definitely relate to the daily grind, and the fact that you want to make a difference for other people is incredible. Someone else has said, already in a sales career, but to coach new leaders, more insights are needed. That is very well said and very true. And I can assure you from this event today, there'll be many, many wonderful insights to help you along your way. Anyone else want to contribute? Now's your time before we switch gears and start to get into the meat and bones of the event itself. I can see a couple of people are typing, so we'll give it a few seconds and see if we get something new. Here we go. Been in sales for 10 years, most of my career. I've had others coming to me to help them. I really enjoy helping people develop and grow. I find it exciting helping others in the team. That is wonderful. What a great Great way of framing things. Thanks a lot for sharing that. I can see there's some more people typing, but at this point, it's probably best that we get started so we can revisit some of these other things soon. Really appreciate all of you chipping in early. I'm going to pause this screen, ask JC to throw up his screen, and then we'll shift gears and get going. Brilliant. So first and foremost, thank you for joining and welcome to this On Target event, where really we've got a focus on emerging sales leaders. We've got two wonderful guests who are joining me here today who we'll introduce shortly. And really the focus on this event is to share in some wisdom, some knowledge, some insights so that you can come away from this event feeling up-leveled on your own journey of being a sales leader, aspiring to be one, and getting some actionable insights to hopefully help you along your way as well. Now, housekeeping as always. So first and foremost, the session is recorded. So everyone who's here will make sure that you get a copy as soon as we wrap up the event. Everyone's going to stay muted, but on the same Slido link that you should have access to on Zoom, please submit any questions that you have at any time, and we'll make sure that we leave about 15 minutes towards the end to do an open Q&A. You can ask those questions to any of us individually or just holistically, and I'm sure one of us will pick out those questions and chime in. And as you can see on the Zoom chat, that's being called out right now. I believe that's everything on housekeeping. So on that note, we'll do some introductions and then we'll dive right in. I'll kick off and then we'll go in order. So Ilana, you'll be next. So I'm Alex Elaine, founder of On Target, current VP of Sales at Braze, a marketing automation platform. Been in the space for 12 years now, a leader for a couple of those years, and have had a lot of success and gained a lot of fulfillment, not only coaching thousands of reps across the globe, but now have the pleasure of being able to support some superstar leaders as well on their own journey of development and growth. So that's a bit about me. Ilana, you're next up.
Thank you, Alex. And again, thank you so much. I'm really excited to share some insights and conversations with yourself and Hirsch. So I'm Ilana. I am the sales director. This was for Northern Europe, but now covering all of EMEA for new business at Braze in the SMB segment. Alex, quite clearly, is my manager. I have been in the tech sales for over 12 years, largely as an individual contributor, working with startups and then progressing to large corporates like Salesforce and Zendesk. And I've been at Braze for nearly a year now.
Wonderful. And Hirsch, I appreciate you actually started a new role at Navan, so apologies for that, but it'd be great to get your intro.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, as you mentioned, so I'm day 4 in a new role at a company called Navan, corporate travel and expense management company. Previous to that, I worked at Data Robot, which is on the screen. So I started my career off in consulting, went into pre-sales and then moved into be an enterprise AE for about 6 years before moving to sales leadership 18 months ago. At Navan, I'm leading the enterprise and strategic sales team for UK and Northern Europe.
Awesome. Well, look, it's a real honor to have you both on and looking forward to diving into the conversation. So I've got a number of questions for both of you, some of which I'm going to chime in and provide my own perspective, and others which I will leave in your capable hands. I really want to split this conversation into two in many ways, where we'll focus a bit more on some of the higher level, holistic, strategic pieces around your careers. And then we'll spend a bit more time on some tactical pieces before we then shift gears into Q&A. So if that sounds good for both of you, we'll dive right in. So my first question is really just to talk about the inspiration for both of you having transitioned from really successful careers being account executives into leadership roles for circa a year to 2 years in your case, Hirsch. So starting with you, Hirsch, talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to make that transition.
I think, as I was saying, right, in the Slido, for me, I wanted to make an impact on people. Impacting, an organization or your clients is great and rewarding. But for me, being able to change people's lives, as my life has been changed from having, great years as an AE, was something that I was really passionate about and I wanted to give back and have an experience of. So, my last leader at Data Robot, for example, she definitely transformed who I am. And that wasn't just from a professional perspective, that was from a personal perspective. And you know, like I mentioned, the thought of being able to give people back their time or earn more money or help them reach their professional goals, for me, gives me a real buzz. And I was laughing, so I was thinking about even, you know, through my life playing football. It might be because I just wasn't good enough and I didn't score a lot, but I got a way more of a buzz, you know, assisting, setting someone up, playing a through ball so someone else can score. And I think that's always just transpired for me, to always wanting to help people to be successful and get that joy. So for me, it was a natural progression to help people get what they want to do.
Makes a ton of sense. I have a pivot question off the back of that. You spoke about the joy and the fun times, but we can't kid ourselves, right? It's also tough. So walk us into Hirsch's first year as a sales leader. Tell us about some of the highs, some of the lows, some of the challenges, and how you overcame them in your first year.
Yeah, it was tough, very tough. So I came into leadership thinking, wow, I'm a director now. I'm going to have so much control of my time, my diary. The reality was I completely lost control. So, you know, I would say yes to every meeting. It was times when it was during COVID. So you could almost do 15 meetings a day if you're, you know, doing 20-minute meetings, half-an-hour meetings, dipping in and out. You don't get time to, you know, go for a pee, let alone have lunch. And it was just exhausting. And I felt like I was doing so much. I was doing everything average, and I was just stressed, you know, working crazy hours, weekends, but not actually being, I guess, concise or intentional with my time. So that was probably the biggest change from my expectation to reality, and what made it so tough. For me, having a plan of how I'm going to do my week and being quite rigorous around it. So, for example, you know, structure on Mondays that I'm going to have my team meetings, my one-to-ones, both with my team, but also upwards, and making Tuesday around pipeline generation, and keeping 60% of my week then for, you know, customer meetings, and having like a strict structure around it, and holding myself accountable and asking my leaders to keep me accountable was probably the biggest change that I could make. But yeah, it was difficult. And a lot of that was down to time management, both for my personal diary, but even, for example, how I recruited. And you know, that's a separate topic we can maybe dive into, but a lot of lessons learned.
Absolutely. Ilana, I want to now spin over to yourself. You're in your first year. I've had the pleasure of observing a lot of that journey. So just talk to us a bit about, again, your inspiration and what this first year has been like for you in your leadership role.
Absolutely. So as I was saying before, I think for me, it happened quite organically. You know, I've been in sales my entire career. I love sales, and, you know, that buzz that I was getting and, you know, we still get from sales, from closing deals, it kind of started to change, right? And in my last couple of years as an enterprise account executive, I was finding that I was enjoying and getting more involved in the mentoring side with more junior salespeople. And I was getting such a buzz from that. And I was trying to get involved internally within the company to help other people and other salespeople. And so I think it was just something that I naturally went towards. And then there was an opportunity that became open at Braze. And it's something that, you know, I didn't have to think twice. And I think when something happens like that, and when it's such a shift, it's, you know, that it's something that I knew it was something I needed to do. And so, yeah, it was more from that enjoyment from helping other people and seeing the impact that it was having on other people, and that feeling that it gave me, that I just, I transitioned into sales leadership, which I absolutely love. And on your second question, I'm one of those people that kind of just jump into things. And so I didn't really, as you probably know, and I didn't really think about kind of what my expectations were. I think I've observed and I've had great sales leaders and you know, but I really didn't know what it was like. And I started to talk to people, and they say it's one of the hardest transitions to do. And I'm like, oh yeah, but it's fine. You know, I've had a relatively successful career. Of course, I can achieve it. And then, yeah, wow, that was a shock to the system in a good way. Right. And one of the things that I think I struggled at really at the beginning were, well, on the back of what Hirsch was saying around time management. And spreading myself too thin and, trying to be on top of absolutely everything. And, it was something that I had to work on quite closely with yourself as well to be able to better manage my time, but actually so I'm effective, right? It's no point doing so much when you're not actually effective. And I think, quite honestly, the second key thing that I really noticed a massive change on, and that was a challenge at the beginning, that, when you do sales for 11, 12 years, you think, oh, you can do it, if it's done in this way, that's the best way. And then as a leader, what you start to realize and really start to live is that there are so many different ways that you can be a really good salesperson, a great salesperson, and to be able to not just put what I would do if I was running that sales deal, onto the AEs that are in my team, but actually work with them to bring out their strengths, right? And to work on their weaknesses, and not just try and create 7 Alanas. And I think that was a massive shift that I had, because I had to learn to adapt different ways of selling.
Absolutely. There was a lot in that. That last piece is fascinating, right? Because you spoke about needing to really coach and enable, but really what I got from that is needing to build the trust and respect with your team. And, I've been able to see firsthand how you've done an incredible job in forging that type of bridge with your team. So I'd love to hear any strategies or just thoughts that you have around how you've been able to gain, earn, and retain the trust and the respect of your team to actually be able to go on that development journey with them.
Absolutely. So I think there are a number of components that come into this. I think one is not going in and saying, do it this way and it will work, right? And it's about, again, really learning and understanding who they are, right? And really kind of focusing on areas that where they would want to improve on themselves, or where I felt like they could improve on, but working closely with them, right? I think there's, building trust in the sense that I'm going to be here to help you and support you, but let's work on how we can enable you to go and do this. And I'm there if you need me. And I think that's helped, especially at the beginning, to basically, drive that trust between us, but also enable them to grow into the salespeople that they're going to be, or they are already. And so, I think that kind of plays a part into what I was saying before, and it's confidence, right? Even when I don't feel as confident in doing something, it's going in with confidence so that they have the confidence in themselves. And I think as a salesperson, once you have confidence in yourself, you can do anything that you want to do. Right. But until you have that confidence, it can feel daunting being in sales. So I think that's definitely a couple of key areas that I've worked on with the team.
I love it. I'd also like to add to this that it's important to remember that, salespeople generally like to win, right? There's often a competitive spirit in the air. And I've always found that when you can make someone better and more effective in their role, that can also play a big role in just garnering trust and respect. You want your team to be able to look to you as someone who can help them to take a step forward, whether it's to earn a promotion, earn an extra zero on a commission check, or anything in between. So it's having that mentality of, have I made my team, have I made this person 1% better today? And if you can say that with confidence and conviction, you're probably well on your way to starting to earn trust and build that relationship that's going to give you the right to develop, coach, and enable your team over time. So really important conversation there. Hirsch, I want to shift back to you and talk a bit about some of the leadership principles that have really underpinned your style and approach as a sales leader. I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with you on the podcast quite a while ago when you were quite early in your journey. Now you're much further on now. So talk to us about who Hirsch is in terms of a leader from a principle standpoint, and how that's helped you excel over time.
Yeah, I think principles definitely change, and you learn and you rank them differently over time. So what you think at first might be the most important. For example, I would have potentially at first thought accountability and ownership, which is definitely one of my principles, is one of the most important. is it less so? And I can come back to why. And I think it all comes back down to also who you recruit and why you recruit people. For me, there's two outstanding principles, which are just number one, which is being the best / winning. That we're in sales, that's non-negotiable, and that's all around drive. And the second is definitely around essentially don't be an arsehole, which is about integrity. And I think those two you cannot compromise on. And I think what I've learned over time, and I'd say I've got three others, which is around teamwork, collaboration, accountability, ownership, and having fun. Like those five for me are compulsory in a team. But the top two I've learned whilst building teams, why they're so important. And it goes back to drive and integrity, which is around being the best and don't be an arsehole. And I very much now make that a crucial part of my interview process. And I even try and screen for that. For example, when I'm reading people's LinkedIn's or CVs, and when I'm speaking to my peers or my leaders when they're doing interviews, I make sure they double down on that.
Well, you've got to tell us the clues that you look out for now, right?
So
Everyone wants to know.
I'll give you a clue. So now this can I guess this could ignore outliers. There might be people with great drive, for example, who don't really fill in their LinkedIn. But I think most people in sales, if I'm recruiting an account executive, would have a good LinkedIn, because that's the first presence when they're potentially speaking to a prospect or a client. So they do fill it out quite extensively. Now, if I see someone that's potentially run marathons or, took time to learn multiple languages, or, potentially gone from working and gone back to do an MBA or master's or some sort of extra qualification, even if it's just a course, which is with their partner in a local place, it shows they're always driven to do things better, improve. Marathon shows grit. So that's one very tactical example. Integrity, again, about the fact that people do potentially charity work, or they're kind as humans, or they're honest. So you look at their numbers and then what they've put on their LinkedIn, and then you back channel them with an ex-leader of theirs, and they're telling the truth. Little things like that. And these are just very tactical examples, but I appreciate the best things. The best part of these sort of conversations has been we can all take away practical examples. I very much try and screen out driving integrity when looking at CVs and LinkedIn.
So if someone wants to get hired by Hirsch, you've just gotten the playbook. So don't say I haven't been helpful. Ilana, I'd love to unpack your own journey with leadership principles. Just talk to us a bit about how you've been able to create a set for yourself and how they've helped you be more impactful in your own role.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking if you were going to ask me exactly the same question, I was actually going to say I want to take a step back, because being within my first year of a sales leader, there are times where you have to think about things differently, or make difficult decisions, or do something that takes you out of your comfort zone, or putting yourself in experience that you've just never gone through before. And this is one of the things that a few months back I struggled with, and actually spoke to Alex about, and we spoke about this concept of leadership principles, because I think when you are having to make these decisions or look at things differently and you're not sure what to do, having this foundation is really, really powerful to kind of sit down and think about, okay, this is who I'm trying to be as a leader. This is the things that I'm trying to follow, and using them as guidelines. So, I think there are a few different types of principles that we can look to and follow. And, I sat down and, from a behavioral perspective, I think, for me, and as has said, they've evolved about 3 or 4 times already. And I think I started to do this about 4 months ago. So that's how quickly things can change. But I actually think being authentic. So for me, being authentic is really, really top priority. As I grow as a sales leader, I want to make sure I grow into the person that is truly myself at the same time. We're going to develop, but I want to make sure that I'm developing myself and not trying to be someone who I'm not. Because if I'm trying to be someone who I'm not, then I'm never going to be the best version of me and the best sales leader. So I think for me, definitely authenticity is really, really important. Accountability is another one. I'm going on what Harsh was saying as well. So and there, respect for myself, respect for my team, respect for my colleagues, my manager. So these are all kind of couple of key, more behavioral principles that I follow. Performance, and when I say performance, it's overachieving. Right, achieving is the minimum that we do, especially as salespeople. So for me, it's overachieving, and that doesn't just mean from a numbers perspective, right, in terms of my team's quota and helping them achieve their quota, but it also means how can I go beyond my job description. Right? How can I be a part of the company that I'm working at, where I'm impacting more people than just my team? And so for me, again, that's really powerful. And then, the last one is really around, a combination between time management and focus. So I think these things are really important to, again, keep myself accountable, but also, without focus, we can, as leaders, we can just end up doing 1,000 different things, and what's actually going to be impactful to the business and to the team and to myself.
The premise of leadership principles is so important. I think hearing both of your answers really just highlights how important it actually is, and sometimes doesn't get enough time, focus, and attention from leaders because, to Alana's point, we're all running around sometimes doing 100 different things and not just taking a moment to say, hey, let me understand who am I and who do I want to be to my team, to my company, and to the world. And that then serves as your compass. And it's so important that once you go through that time of really working out the answers to those questions, that you live it every day. Right? These things can just be a picture on the wall of who you want to be, or you live and breathe it every day to really encourage your team to start to rally around the way that you think about the world, to ultimately help them to be more effective in their roles. So that's just a call out to say, take the time to map out your leadership principles, then make sure you also take the time to live and breathe them every day to help you to become more effective day to day. Now, I want to ask you both really a final question in this slightly more higher level, broader leadership-centric pieces, and then start to transition into some more tactical pieces to make sure that everyone comes away from this with some actionable advice as well. I'd love to know from each of you, if you could go back to day one when you took that first step into being a sales leader, what would you do the same? What would you do differently if you could press the reset button? I'll start with you, Alana, this time.
It's interesting because I'm, again, one of those people that, I'm a big believer in not, no regrets and not changing things that I've experienced, because I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for those experiences. So I think, less about changing some of the experiences that I went through and more about what I would maybe share with other people who are starting off in their sales leadership career is, try not to, going back to what I said before, but trying not to just be on everything and trying not to just essentially create a team that is just different versions of yourself. I think, for me, that was something that I really struggled with at the beginning. I wouldn't change it necessarily, but I would absolutely, try and reduce the time that it took for me to transition into a different type of leader. So I think that's definitely something I would say is it's really, really tough to do that, especially when you've been in sales for such a long period of time. And it's one of the hardest things to do. So I think it's more just be aware that this will likely or could happen to you.
Love it. Love it. Harsh, same question to you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to talk more about the positives then, because I talked about what I would do, which is about planning my weeks, right, and time management. And another thing I probably would do is I had great mentors outside of the organization that were probably, I guess, a lot more experienced than myself. And what I probably wished I had done is have a mentor that was on the same journey that I'm on, but maybe just a year or two ahead. Because they would have really gone through the same, rabbit holes that I've just fallen down. So that was probably something I'd do slightly differently. I thought I could spin, and also something what did work really well for me, because moving role where I have now, moving to joining a new company as a leader is very different to my previous company where I got promoted. And when you get promoted, whilst you're going to be hiring new people, you also are going to be, managing your peers, which is, I guess, a different experience to when you join someone new. And when you hire people, of course, it also relates to your question that you asked Alana earlier in terms of trust. You make sure that, that trust is there as part of the process. But when you're inheriting your colleagues, your friends, to then be in your team, what worked really well for me is really making sure that I was very transparent and consistent from the offset. And what I mean by that is set expectations and let them know that, my goal is for the interest of the team. I'm not doing anything for myself, and making sure I always explain the why. And that can be for any scenario. For example, if someone's getting fired, hired, or promoted, it's really important that you have a team meeting and explain the why. And when you say the why, it can't be intangibles. It needs to be tangible, ideally data driven, factual information, so that people know that what you're doing is fair. And by doing things like that, really getting stuck in with my peers and helping them on deals, because clearly I could sell the previous the platform I was for the company I was working previously. That's why I got promoted. Getting my hands dirty, putting skin in the game physically, again, was something that really brought that trust from the people on my team. So what differently is definitely get a mentor that was closer to me, rather than someone who's 5-10 years more experienced than where I am. But something that I thought worked really well was the bits around when you inherit teams, getting your hands dirty.
It's great points from both of you. I'll add my own 2 cents here. I would encourage people to as I describe it, build a moat. And what I mean by that is, when you're stepping into your first leadership role, you're going to have gaps, right? It's obvious there's going to be a number of gaps and challenges, and certain things will be intimidating. And so when I say to build a moat, is to be really clear about where you feel you're coming into your role with your strengths, where your gaps are, and immediately trying to work through how you can actually solve for those things. So who are the people internally within the company that you can lean into to help to plug some of those gaps? Who are the people that you can lean on during those first few weeks to make sure that you can still give your team what they're looking for, make sure that you can add value to them in the ways that you're strong from day one. But again, try and not run into too many hurdles too early without knowing that you've got a good support network for you, both internally within the organization, and a bit like Kirsch just spoke about, having external mentors as well to help you navigate some of those challenging scenarios. So my quick takeaway is to build a moat. Now, I want to shift gears into some more tactical points, and just to add a bit of a scene set. In the title for the event, we included the Pod Excellence Framework, and that stands for Pipeline, Operational, and Deal Excellence. And the reason I came up with that is, as I took the step into leadership myself, I found that if you could solve for consistently building repeatable plays to generate pipeline, you've got a great professional and personal operating rhythm that allows you to sustain over time, and you have great sales and deal acumen, it puts you and your team in a fantastic position to outperform every single day, every single quarter and beyond. And of course, my team will be a bit more familiar with how we drive that rigor, but I want to talk through some of these areas and really try and get specific to help people take away some actionable points from this. So, Alana, I'm going to start with you on the pipeline generation front. I'd love to get your perspective around, how other sales leaders can really prioritize and evangelize their team around pipeline development efforts, because we know for some salespeople, it can be the less glamorous part of the job. And so it's not always easy to get everyone comfortable and excited about and the importance of that part of the role. So love to just hear your thoughts and some of the strategies you've put in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that first things first, sitting down and working with each AE for them to actually understand what they need to achieve when it comes to their pipe. right? So, if you're going to hit your quota, overachieving your quota, what do you actually need to do? And sit down and actually do the maths, right? What do I need to do in terms of the number of calls, emails, LinkedIn, videos on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so that I have the opportunity of, achieving my quota. I think once sitting down and actually doing the exercise, the biggest thing that comes from it is the shock, quite honestly, of, wow, I've got to do all of that. And it can seem quite overwhelming. And so, but it's reality, right? And it's, and it's important, pipeline and pipeline generation has to be consistent, right? Even when you're building and closing deals. So, in order to put a bit of structure so that AEs actually feel, confident that they can achieve those weekly and monthly and quarterly pipeline goals. So one thing that we do is we have a complete, Monday pipe gen focus day, where it's purely focused on pipe generation, no customer meetings, try and limit them, and internal meetings, and really having a full day dedicated. And that again goes back to that focus. And I think just being in that mindset for an entire day at the beginning of that week, really, we've seen such great results from it. A few more things are, on a kind of a weekly or fortnightly basis, kind of having these power hours in the middle of the week, right? Because that's when the deals start to come in play, and then pipe gen becomes something of, not as high priority. So making sure that throughout the week there's consistent focus on pipe generation. So having a focus on, okay, this week, let's aim for 50 calls on the Wednesday, just through that 1 hour. And then at the end of the week, it's them spending that Friday afternoon doing that preparation for that Monday pipe focus day, right? Because without the preparation done in advance, it's not going to have the same impact. And you can spend, 8 hours doing pure pipe gen, picking up the phones, sending those emails, those LinkedIn messages. But, unless you do the preparation before, it can end up being 4 hours and you don't get the most out of that day. So I think it's structure throughout the entire week in different ways. I would definitely say is something that we've put in place.
It's spooky, Alana. It sounds like we got a very similar perspective on this topic.
I know, Alex. I don't know where I got all of this from.
Absolutely. Hirsch, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the same topic.
No, and I know you juggles the working together, but it is spooky because I couldn't agree more with a lot of what Alana said. So definitely everything what Alana said is very similar to how I operate. So I won't repeat that. I'll try and add some different angles. One thing I will reiterate is that working the numbers with your team first, though, because if you do give targets or metrics to aim towards, because that's what success will look like for your team, and just giving them a number, it's really frustrating as an AE just to be told you need to book this many meetings, etc. Making them understand the why and reverting that back to average deal size, length of sales cycle at the company, what your personal target is, because yes, you have a target, but you want to hit 150%. So actually you need to work harder, smarter, quicker, and actually mapping that out with your team, and then reverting back to the target numbers so they believe it is really important, in my opinion, rather than just giving them a number. But yeah, operating cadence, everything Ilana says, I couldn't agree more. Having PG days, the plan for PG is really important, because you don't want to spend the PG day actually planning, you want to be executing. Things I would add is on PG days, I think the leader can play a massive role. So the way I run my PG days is in the morning, have a PG kickoff. I'll rock up with, pan of chocolates, croissants, or whatever it may be. But we'll go around and talk about what we're going to try and do that day for a few reasons. So one, for example, I might say, right, today I'm going to target Barclays, and Ilana might have sold at Barclays at a previous company. So she might say, hey, Hirsch, I've got loads of contacts, so I can hook you up with X, Y, and Z, or I know the partner, the person at Accenture that can, get you into that door, whatever it may be. But sharing is caring, so you might be able to help each other out. But secondly, it holds, we talked about accountability being me and Lana both mentioned that's a key principle for us. It allows you and the AE to be accountable for what they want to do that day. Now, they might not achieve what they set out to do in terms of results, but from an effort perspective, that there shouldn't be ever an excuse not to be accountable of what you're going to do. So, having that kickoff, but making it fun, because let's face it, PG isn't the most glamorous part of sales, but it's probably the most important. And then again, lunchtime, I'd always make sure that we have lunch together as a team. You don't work during that period. And I think, again, that's quite a crucial point. So, have a bit of fun to break up the day and then finish the day with a PG wrap up. I think that's great to also celebrate the small wins, learn from each other. For example, I think a few quarters ago, a lot of AEs started doing LinkedIn voice notes, and with C-level, we found that worked great. And that day, an AE booked 4 or 5 meetings in the afternoon by doing so, when no one had ever tried that before, because it was at the time a new feature, and you can only do it on your mobile. And then sharing that was great, right? And we all listened to one of the voice notes, and it was really powerful to learn from one another. So I think as leaders doing PG days, because it is it's a long day, we can really help drive it to be engaging, be fun, be energetic. I walk around, try and have a bit of a laugh with people, but also get stuck in. Ask AEs, can you give me some messages to send, or give me people to call, put skin in the game. I think that's a massive differentiator as well.
So many important messages throughout both of your answers. I'm really glad you called all of those things out. It's the lifeblood of the job. And so, glamorous or not, it's got to get done. And I think there's some great points from both of you around how other sales leaders can be considerate of the same thing for their teams. Now, shifting gears into the topic of operational excellence, I'll stick with you here, Hirsch, for now. Earlier in the conversation, we kind of dance a bit around the points around focus, and that gave me rise to think about the importance of effective time management for sales leaders, especially in one of Alana's answers, just talking about the fact that we have so much to do every given day. So what does effective time management look like for Hirsch? And what strategic things have you implemented within your week to help you get the best ROI on every second of your time?
Okay. So ROI on my time, I guess the biggest shift I remember moving from an AE to a sales leader is, when you're an AE, your client is, customers and prospects. When you're a sales leader, your client is your team. So for me, I'm just thinking out loud, you used to talk about ROI. ROI for me is, how can I get the best from my team in that week? So the one-to-ones that I have on Monday. So our team has always done PG on Tuesdays. So on Mondays, when I do the one-to-ones, for me, that's probably my most important meeting of the week, to get the ROI, as you call it. So I prep, and I think this is a practical tip that works really well for me, every Friday afternoon. And sometimes if I have to be, called upon with customer meeting, etc., then I will do that on my own time. Whether it means doing it on a Sunday, that's my choice. I'm not necessarily saying everyone should do that, but I thoroughly want to come prep for my one-to-ones for a few reasons. So first of all, if I come thoroughly prepped, the AE is going to come thoroughly prepped. And if the first time they don't, I think the second or third time they definitely will, because they don't want to be, turning up to a meeting where you've clearly put the time investment in, you're asking questions that they don't know the answer to. So prep on the Friday. Having structure in that one-to-one, I think, is really important. So and it goes back to consistency. So, running a one-to-one in a way that they look forward to it, they feel like they're going to get practical guidance on it, but do it in a way that's helping them. So personally, the way I run my one-to-ones is, first of all, allow AEs to talk about what they want to do, what they want to bring up, because obviously the one-to-one's for them. Then we'll talk about PG and the deals, and then I will bring up a topic. The reason I go into that is because that goes back down to the prep on the Friday. If I just rock up to a one-to-one and guess a topic to discuss with the AE and the team, I might be not helping them with something they need immediate help on. But if I prep, I'm going to bring up something relevant. So an example might be, Alex, you are an AE and you're, looking to close a deal with Lloyds Banking Group, just picking out names, right? And you said to me, I really want to build more champions in this account. I'm quite single threaded. I want to speak to more people in the business, in different business functions. Now, if I prep and notice that you're still meeting the same person, I'm not necessarily going to come to that one-to-one and say, Alex, I've seen you've only met the same person again, because that's not obviously an inspiring way to bring up that topic. But I will say, Alex, how are you getting on building more champions? Is there anything I can do to help? And that's going to facilitate a conversation about, increasing your sphere of influence. Now, there's no point me saying that to Ilana about one of her deals because she doesn't have that problem. So if I've prepped according to Ilana in that time, I'm going to bring up a topic that's relevant to Ilana. So my point being, the prep for one-to-ones on a Friday for your one-to-ones on a Monday, for me, gives me the best ROI. And obviously, I talked about Tuesdays, being stuck in with PG, and then obviously Wednesdays to Fridays. Back to your question, Alex, how you prep your week is around your custom meetings, one-to-ones with your peers, etc., forecasts, etc. But I'm very structured on my prep for one-to-ones and doing them on the Monday so they get help for the week.
Got it. I think the key messages I take away from that is the structure and the premise of prep. We actually handle one-to-ones quite differently to you in the sense that I really create a clear line between a one-to-one with a focus on personal and professional development and top of mind things and things of that nature, and then leveraging deal reviews from a Tuesday to a Thursday, primarily to spend time on unpacking deals. So I think the spirit and the premise we share, the structure is slightly different, and I think that's all what makes it fun to have these types of conversations. Ilana, I'd love to get your thoughts and approach on really how you control your calendar, especially with so many different competing priorities.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you looked at my calendar, you'd be shocked, right? And it's always packed, but it's always packed with what's priority. So I think the key thing is to prioritize actually what am I here to do and what's going to generate the most ROI for the team. And so I'm also a big believer, by the way, in that I don't work 14-hour days at all. I'm very much if I need to be there at 8 a.m. fine. If not, it's 9 till 6 or whatever it is. I'm always around the working day because I'm about being effective within a shorter period of time and not having to work 15-hour days. It's not something that I've done in the past and not something I continue, I want to get into. And it works. And I think it works because I prioritize it, right? So I think about my week, it's split between 3 different areas. It's the individual within my team, and that can be one-on-one enablements, it can be deal reviews, it can be one-on-ones in general where we talk about personal and professional development and what's top of mind to them. So it's focusing on them. And then the second part is obviously helping with customer meetings as well. And then, of course, the third is internal meetings, right? And I think for me, that was a struggle as well. And, to be able to not have meetings for the sake of meetings, yes, I need to catch up with you, but it can be done on a monthly basis. It doesn't need to be an hour meeting every week. And that's something that I've really started, I definitely transitioned into not having meetings for the sake of meetings. And all of that combined, kind of being able to prioritize, yes, I need to have this conversation, or, no, we don't need to have a 30-minute meeting over it. We can, have a quick, coffee in 5 minutes, and that can be done. And so I think, the key thing for me is to be able to prioritize what's going to give the highest return of investment. And that, of course, is the team individually with customers, and then managing the internal conversations well.
Love it. Love it. Great points in that. So we're going to shift gears slightly in the sense that we're about to come on to the Q&A segment. We have got a few questions in already. If anyone has any questions at all, please click on the Slido link in the chat. Now's your chance to get those questions in, and we'll make sure we come to them. I'm going to ask one final question, and it's whoever wants it first out of Ilana and Hirsch, and then we're going to shift gears to the Q&A. So I'd just love to get on the deal excellence front. either of your stance around really some of the core pillars that you feel are important when it comes to winning business. So whether it's frameworks, approaches, mentality, whatever, I'd just love to get your thoughts on key principles when it comes to winning business. Who wants it?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Tell us.
Go ahead, Joanna.
So I think, there's so many different types of sales methodologies, and they largely kind of all overlap. I think it's down to a large part is down to mentality and attitude. And this, when you see, hungry salespeople, it's like, they're going to be successful, right? They're going to do whatever they can to be successful. So I think, and sometimes it's really, really tough in sales, especially when we're going through our lows. But I think, mentality is one of the key drivers for, successful deal excellence. I think it's preparation, to be honest. I think it's, preparing for every proposal deal, having those conversations, prep conversations, even just thinking and sitting down. I've got a 15-minute call with my champion. What do I need to get out of it? And what questions do I need to ask in order to get out of it? And that's still prep. And it's just for a 15-minute call. It's not a 2-hour meeting. So I think mentality, I think preparation, and working through problems, right? And thinking about different scenarios, gaining knowledge from your manager, from your team is really, really important. And creating structure in the way that you run a deal will also give yourself the confidence to achieve and close. And I think actually, lastly, on that closing note, because I'm a big lover of closing, it's to be able to shift from selling and knowing when to stop selling and going to then in for the close. And there is this point in a sales cycle that we have to stop selling and we have to start closing. And I think that's really, really tough to decide, and to actually make that shift. So yeah, I think those are some of them, but there are so many things that are part of, deal excellence and strategy.
Awesome. Great way to wrap up this segment. Hershad, I'd love to have got your answer, but we got 9 questions now. So I do want to make sure we give a good opportunity to get through some of them. So first of all, thank you both so much for walking through that segment. I think it was incredibly helpful, and I hope everyone else listening can attest to that. Let's see if we can answer some of these questions in a relative quick fire format and see how we get on. And I'm going to go in order of top voted down. So the question at the top is specifically to Ilana. You've been quoted as saying, try not to create a team of different versions of you. Please elaborate what is wrong with this.
Okay, quick answer. Whilst I've been successful in my sales career, there are a number of different ways of being a successful salesperson. And it's really important that we work on our own strengths and obviously our weaknesses as well. And, my way isn't the best way. It's not the only way. And if I'm trying to put on my way of thinking or my way of doing things and getting someone to change the way that they would potentially do it, they're never going to be the best salesperson that they can be, because they're always going to try and be someone who they're not. And so I think it's about providing guidance and support, but making sure that they have the opportunity to challenge me as well and to try things out in a different way. I don't know if that's
right. Thank you. The next question is, how do you deal with AEs that are kind of slow in process and need to take their time to ramp up, and not the hungry type of AEs like Ilana mentioned? Either of you want to take that?
Yeah, I can have a go at that. So I think that's quite generic, obviously saying slow in process, because that can mean a lot. But I guess the question's asking about how do you get AEs to ramp faster, or, at least be average if they're behind. I think that's definitely, obviously there's the first part, how you hire, making sure and I talked about earlier that there's certain characteristics, but even skills that you think about when you're hiring to make sure you get the right person in the first place. And skills, there's the tangibles and intangibles. The tangibles are obviously the things are going to be important in terms of either performance, how they operate, where they've worked, the type of companies you want to recruit for, but the intangibles are obviously around the things like how they pipeline generate, how they close business, do they have domain experience. So I think obviously first, bit side answer, but look back at your hiring strategy, make sure you've got that nailed on. But then when you do have an AE who's currently in the team that's being slow to ramp up, you need to dissect why they're slow, right? And I think you need to have a maniacal focus on each part of your sales process to figure out where the problem lies. Are they struggling to get initial discovery calls and meetings? If the answer is yes, then right, let's dig in and shadow some calls, or show them how to do these calls, or make them shadow a successful AE or SDR on how they're getting first meetings, read their messages with them, help them review them. If that's actually not the problem, right, they're getting the first meetings but they're not converting into new business meeting or demos or whatever you call it at your organization, the next stage where you want to try and find more pain, right? Why is that? Are they able to position the platform or your value proposition or whatever you're selling? Can you pitch that? Well, let's practice your elevator pitch. Every stage has a reason why it won't be converting from one stage to another. Actually, they're really good at that. So the next stage you look at is, right, you're getting meetings with senior, with people. Are you speaking to the right people? Are they senior enough? How do you then talk about the engagement process after you've spoken to them, because you both see there's a value in continuing the conversation. Every part of the process can be broken down, and I think it's the leader's job to figure out where that problem lies and then work with them on fixing it.
Great call out there, Hirsch. Enjoyed that one. I'll take this one, which is, what do you do to motivate a team member who is not personally motivated? How do you approach that conversation, and what questions do you ask? I would say, in short, you've really got to understand what's getting that person out of bed every morning. I talk a lot about the fact that I believe most people have some form of chip on their shoulder, some bigger than others. I have a big chip, some people have a small chip, but you've got to figure out what that is. The moment you find out what that is and you ask some really thoughtful questions about, why are you doing all of this? What got you into it? What invigorates you? What does the opposite? The moment you can help someone to really ignite what that thing is, you'll start to see that they're able to outperform themselves each day that little bit more than they're able to when they're just disconnected from that thing. And when you go into each day, it's so easy to lose sight of what got you to the dance. So what I'd encourage you to do is understand that everyone has a chip, some big, some small, figure out what it is, and then ignite it to help move that person forward. Next one is, how do you prepare for your weeks to hit your goals? Anyone want that one?
I feel like, Hirsch, your preparation for your one-to-one before, so I'll see if I can add something additional there. So I think for me, it's sitting down and okay, what's coming next week, right? What do I need to do in advance? And preparation is both for myself, but also for the team. So, I think there's two parts to it. One, it's making sure that I'm supporting the team with their preparation for the week and enabling a structure and process to do that. But, it's also for me saying, okay, how, what do I need to do in advance? What's the best way of doing that? How do I need to structure, if I conversations during one-on-ones, or forecast and then my forecast in advance of that as well, and really being able to just dedicate the time to do it. I think there's not one way of effectively preparing for the week. I think the key thing I would say is just making sure you dedicate time to do it. If you don't dedicate time to actually prepare whatever that needs to be, there's no preparation will get done, because as soon as that week starts, there's going to be other competing priorities. So I would, the key thing I'd say is, dedicating in advance the time and the focus to make sure that at the end of that week, I can turn around and say, yeah, that was a good week. It was a successful week.
Great advice. Let's see if we can get through two more quick fire. One of them is, I feel like my weekly team meetings are getting predictable and boring for them, but I still need them to set goals. Any advice on how to recover their engagement?
Pan of chocolat. That's what Hirsch does,
Yeah,
right?
pan of chocolat.
Feed everyone with food.
I've got a quick one. Obviously, there's a lot of context that can be around that question, I'm sure. You need to obviously get across your information, but I like to invite someone new to the meeting once a week, whether it's someone from a different region in the US, someone from, more, if it's a product team or whatever your company's, what's relevant in your company, but bringing someone, a wild card to your meeting to present, or even having your team present quite often about a successful or unsuccessful deal, but just mixing it up, having that wild card element each week for 15 minutes, which is completely different, I think is an idea to keep it fresh.
That's a really, really great call out. I love that one. For everyone listening, do me a favor. If you've gotten any form of value from the conversation, just put an emoji, a comment, something to let it be known how you found the event and the wisdom and the insight shared. Just as we're wrapping up, there's actually still several more questions and we've not been able to get to them. So please, just leave a comment, leave an emoji, let us know how you found it. Outside of that, we will send a follow-up email out with a recording. You'll have both Ilana and Hirsch's LinkedIn profiles. I'm sure they'll be happy to take note of any other questions that you have. We have another event coming up next month, July 20th. Event link is in the chat. It will also be in the follow-up email. So please also come along for that. And I hope that all of you have enjoyed the event this evening. Hirsch and Ilana, you both enjoyed it?
Loved it. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Well, look, it was great to have you all. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening and look forward to seeing you all on the next one.